Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Education Board.
Hello students, welcome to TV learning programs. I'm Teacher Julius as usual, and today I'll be with Senior 4 Economics class. We are still on our Unit 6, which is the theory of supply. And our today's lesson, I want us to look at individual supply schedule and market supply schedules. Then we see how we can even plot or construct or plot, how we can plot the individual supply curve and the market supply curve. So you remember, students, learners, in the previous lesson, when we started this new unit, we defined what supply is, we stated the law of supply, and even we illustrated or we drew what we call the supply curve. And we even explained the factors that influence or that determine quantity supplied. How did we define supply, members? We said supply refers to the amount of a commodity that producers or sellers are willing to offer or put on the market at a given price in a given period of time. We stated or explained the rule of supply, whereby we said that the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied. And the lower the price, the lower the quantity supplied. So at a higher price, we said, sellers or producers are willing to offer a load, to take a load on the market. But the lower price now discourages them from taking a lot or supplying a lot of commodities on the market. So we said, by illustrating that law on the supply curve, that there is a positive relationship between the two variables, that is price and quantity supplied. Whereby if price increases, quantity supplied increases. If price falls, quantity supplied falls. Whereby we illustrated and we said, if this is quantity supplied and this is price, so we said there is a positive relationship. If this is the supply curve, if this is the supply curve, a positive gradient is a positive gradient. So now we are going to see individual supply schedule. Then we see how we can plot an individual supply curve. We see how we can construct a market supply schedule using individual supply schedules. Then we see how we can even plot a market supply curve. That's what we are going to do today. So from the theory of demand, that is in the previous unit, unit number 5, we saw individual demand curve, or individual demand schedule and market demand schedule. Now this is a reverse of the other. So if we continue from that, what is a supply schedule? So a supply schedule is a table. We say the schedule is a table. That's what we said in the previous unit. A schedule is a table. So a supply schedule is a table that shows different quantities supplied to the market at given prices. So it will be a table showing quantity supplied at given prices to the market. That will be a supply schedule. A schedule is a table. Then we have an individual supply schedule. An individual supply schedule is a table showing different quantities of a commodity that a specific producer or seller takes to the market at different prices. That is an individual supply schedule. A table. Schedule is a table. Previously, we said the demand schedule shows different quantities of a commodity demanded or that can be purchased at different prices. So now here, an individual supply schedule, it shows different quantities of a commodity that can be supplied at various prices to the market. You remember that very well, learners. So now what is a market supply schedule? We talked about, I want you to relate this in the previous unit 5, theory of demand, where we talked about market demand schedule, where we are looking at total demand, total amount of goods that different consumers can purchase at given prices. Now here we want to see the market supply schedule, which is the opposite of a market demand schedule. One is the opposite of the other. Now with the market supply schedule, we are looking at total quantities, total amount of goods that different producers can offer to the market at given prices. We shall add up total amount of goods that different sellers or producers, suppliers have taken to the market at given prices in a given period of time. So that will be our market supply schedule. So in this case, we may be given a schedule table that comprises of different suppliers having different prices, then different quantities of commodities supplied. Then from there, you can plot different individual supply curves. Then from there, you can construct a market supply schedule, and even you plot a market supply curve using a market supply schedule. So let's look at the table below. Shows the amount of commodity put on the market by different suppliers at given prices. So they want us to draw individual supply curves and construct a market supply schedule, and hence a market supply curve. That's what we are going to look at this time. So this is, you can check our table. Learners, you can try to look at it very well. That's our schedule that we have. This table is comprising of, we have the column for prices, our first price being 500, second price being 1,000, third price being 1,500. Then quantity, it is being given in kilograms. Supplier A at 500 supplied 600. Supplier B supplied 500. Supplier C, 300 kilograms. At 1,000, supplier A supplied 800 kilograms. Then supplier B took to the market 600 kilograms. Supplier C also supplied 500 kilograms. Then you go to the third price. The price increased to 1,500. Now see, supplier A responded by increasing the quantity supplied to 1,200. Likewise, supplier B also increased to 700. Likewise, supplier C also at this time also increased her or his quantity supplied to 700. So you can see each supplier is responding to the price change, and in this case, the price change is an increase. As price kept on increasing, you can check, if you check the trend, if you look at our table very well, each supplier responded by increasing the quantity supplied to the market. What does this mean? An increase in price was a stimulant. It motivated these different suppliers to offer more to the market. Likewise now, following the law of supply, if maybe the price change was a decrease, suggest what would happen to the quantity supplied by these suppliers. Strictly would, following the law of demand, would expect each supplier to respond by reducing the quantity supplied to the market. Each supplier would respond by reducing quantity supplied to the market because of a reduction in price. Because of a reduction in price. Again, you can ask yourself, from this step, I want you to analyze many things. If at 500, supplier A supplied 600. Supplier B took to the market 500 kilograms, and supplier C took to the market 300. You see, at the same price, 500 Ugandan francs, they are supplying different quantities. Each supplier is giving a different, is supplying a different amount of the commodity. Now, can you justify that? Why is it that they are not all supplying the same quantity of commodity at a same price? So there must be factors that may account for all those variations in the quantity supplied by these different suppliers at the same price. For example, now you can see supplier A supplied more than supplier B and supplier C. So you should be able to reason and think what could be behind this situation. Maybe supplier A has a lot of land, has a big land where he's carrying out production from, has many workers maybe that he has employed. That's why he's able to raise more than supplier B and C. Supplier C supplied only 300. Maybe he employed less factors of production, no enough land, no enough money. You see? So all those factors may account for that. You should reason out more reasons as to why. At the same place, they are not supplying the same quantity. Now, we are to use this and we see how we can plot the individual supply schedule. And then from there, we make a market supply schedule, and finally, we make a market supply curve. So now, if we begin with supplier A, let's see now. So this is quantity supplied. Quantity supplied in kilograms. Then this is our price in Ugandan francs. So we have the first price, the second, and the third. So with supplier A at 500, he or she supplied 600. So if you can check now, here we have 600 on quantity. Then we have 800 as our quantity. Then we have 1,200. So let's see how we can plot this now. So at 500, supplied 600. At 1,000, supplied 800. Then at 1,500, he increased or was motivated to supply more, which is 1,200. So if you draw your supply, curve, so we have this one as our supply curve for supplier A. There is a positive relation, there is a positive slope. This is a positive slope, positive gradient. You can check following the law of supply. As the price increases, quantity supplied is also increasing. And the reverse is true. The reverse is true. As price reduces, quantity supplied also reduces. That's why there is a positive relation. Unlike in the demand curve where there is an inverse relationship, meaning that as price increases, quantity demanded is low, the law of demand. So this is for supplier A. Now, Let's look at now supplier B. The supply curve for supplier B. So we have the same thing. So we have our quantity supplied here, and this is in kilograms. Then we have our price in Rwandan francs. And we have the same prices, 500, 1,000, then 1,500. Supplier B responded also to the price increase. We have 500 here, then we have 600, then we have 700. We have 700. So, at 500, supplier B supplied 500 kilograms. Supplier B was also motivated by an increase in price. So an increase in price, a change in price, and that change is a positive, an increase of 500, led to an increase in quantity demanded of 100 kilograms. So there is an increase in quantity demanded. So the addition of 500 in price motivated this supplier B to add more 100 kilograms to be 600 kilograms. As the price is increasing, suppliers get motivated to take more to the market. And the reverse is true. The price did not stop there. It increased to 1,500. And therefore, he didn't sleep also. He added more to the market. He added more to the market. So, if you draw your supply curve, it has also a positive slope, positive gradient. He responded to the price increase, and the response here was also positive because we see an increase in the quantity supplied to the market following an increase in the price of the commodity. Let's see supplier C, how supplier C responded to the price increase. So supplier C, if you can check, we have the same for supplier C. We have quantity supplied here, and it's in kilograms. Then we have a price on the y-axis in Rwandan francs. They are all supplying at the same prices, but supplying different quantities, depending on their different capacities. So here we have 500, we have 1,000, then we have 1,500. Supplier C did not just sit and see the increase in the prices, was also responding to the increase in the prices. At 500, he responded by supplying 300 kilograms, then we have 500, then we have 700. So, if you try to plot supplier C at 300, at 500 as the price, he supplied this quantity. Then you can check at 1,500, he supplied this, 700. Also responded to the price increase. So this is our supply curve. So each supplier responded to the price increase by supplying or by getting the motivation of supplying more to the market. Meaning that when it comes to the theory of supply, an increase in the price of a commodity motivates suppliers or sellers to get more and invest in production and supply more to the market. There's what you call an economic recovery in economics. If you want to, sometimes if there's an increase in prices, if prices increase, it becomes a stimulant. It stimulates the producers to invest more and supply more. And remember, when they invest more, that will help the economy so much. If they invest more jobs will be provided. More tax revenue, or the tax base will be widened. People will get jobs. Standards of living will increase. You see? Now, let's now construct a market. Let's construct now a market demand schedule. A market demand schedule. How do you construct the market demand schedule now? Using the information that we have. We must first see at 500 Rwandan francs, we have these three producers. We have to add up and see what is the quantity of the commodity that they supply at the market at this price. Supplier A, we have to add. Supplier A responded by taking 600 kilograms. You add what supplier B did, and you add what supplier C did. So if you can check this, 600, 1,100, 1,400 kilograms. So the three producers at 500 supplied a total of 1,400 kilograms. Now, at 1,000 Rwandan francs, what was supplied? So you have to add supplier B at 1,000. Supplier A supplied 800, supplier B 600, then supplier C 500. So what is the total? 800, 1,400, then when you add this, it is 1,900 kilograms. That is what they took to the market at that price, all of them. Then the price increased to 1,500 Rwandan francs. What total did they take to the market? Add up the quantities they took to the market. Supplier A took 1,200, supplier B 700. At this time, supplier C also responded by supplying 700. If you add this, that gives you 2,600 kilograms as the total quantity these two took to the market at this price. How do you construct now the market demand schedule? So if you are to construct the demand schedule now, so we have to see what did they. We have our price, 1,000, then we have that. So then we can have our quantity here. So our price, we have 500. Then we have 1,000. Then we have 1,500. So which quantity was supplied at this? The total here is 1,400, 1,900, 2,600. So this is the market demand schedule, showing the total quantities supplied in kilograms to the market by different suppliers, the total. So how do you now construct the market supply curve? This is our price as usual in Rwandan francs. Then our quantity supplied in kilograms. At the same price, we have 500, 1,000, 1,500. Then we have here 1,400, then you have 1,900, then you have 2,600. So at this, you can see what they supplied. So now I expect you to be able to plot this. So, and if you plot, you see we have a positive slope, positive gradient. So that's your market supply curve. Thank you for listening and watching to this lesson. But I have one question for you, my dear learners. With the aid of illustrations, that's your work, explain the following: individual supply schedule and individual supply curve, market supply schedule and market supply curve. Try to put that down. Thank you for attending, for listening to this lesson. We meet next time. Thank you.